Welcome back to Warrior Servant Leader podcast. We're so glad you're here today. We have a fascinating guest. Uh, Former law enforcement officer, rose rapidly through the ranks, reached captain at the age of 26 in a Midwest agency, was a patrol officer, investigator, and then even specialized in interrogations and child abuse cases. He got the itch to go into business, and he left law enforcement. And We'll let Jack share the story a little bit about that. He got crosswise with the feds, and involved money, no violence, and ended up catching a 15-year federal sentence that he served in Texas and other federal facilities. Hung out with gangbangers, cartel members, bank robbers, and George Jung, the man Johnny Depp played in the movie Blow. Then he got transferred to a lower security facility. Then he went from gangbangers and cartel guys to politicians, incarcerated cops, some NFL players, and even a few doctors. During that time, Jack wrote 3 books and became a successful jailhouse lawyer and observed a world that works like unlike anyone really thinks it does. He's out. He's now a partner in Prison Break Brewery, and he's also a musician. Has a new album coming out, and a YouTube channel, Fed Joints to Beer Joints. Jack, welcome to the show. Got a lot to unpack here, especially your books. One's a children's book, one's a political comedy, and then one's called False Confessions.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so, man, want to jump in and dig into this. How'd you get sideways with the feds?
Like you said, crosswise and crossways. With the feds, it doesn't make any difference. You're going. Yeah, it was a weird thing because my law enforcement career was spotless. It was great. I really was successful, and I had the idea to just go off into business. My issue was I got into administration. If you've been in law enforcement, law enforcement administration are two different things, and I was very dissatisfied with that. So I got in the business world, got into the insurance business, the investment business, and they said I misappropriated money. Basically I stole it, and I thought I would get it back and forth as I was trying to build the business up. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, and when they got wind of it, I just confessed. I rolled over and gave them everything. Which with the feds doesn't make any difference. They're going to hammer you anyway. So they did, and I deserved it. I'm not here to whine or complain about any of that. But that's how that happened. And from there, I ended up going to Tuna FCI down on the Mexican border, and away we go. So,
So while you're in prison, with at this higher security facility, uh, how did you survive dealing with being locked up with, you know, the enemy, so to speak, the bad guys that we were all chasing our careers?
but the first thing is when I got there, they told me, I wouldn't let anybody in the yard know that you were a cop, and I had no intentions of doing that. Later on, one of the correctional officers actually, who didn't like me, put it out. And but at first, so I went in there with my head down. I went in there. I'm gonna kind of let you know how I got along with these guys, and this is how. I went in with the intentions basically of never coming out alive. I had decided I was going to commit suicide, but the way I was going to do it, unlike my father had committed suicide in 1980, I wasn't going to do it like that. I was going to have somebody else take me out in prison, and that way, you know, um, it didn't work because I got into a couple scuffles and I was still in pretty good shape when I won. And so that didn't work. So people started liking me in prison. But you got to understand, the prisons at that level are full of gangs, Serenos, 505s, dirty white boys, whoever. Anyway, uh, the first thing to do is you keep your mouth shut and you observe, see what's going on. It was kind of like being a cop. The really good investigators shut their mouth a lot of times. And and see what the hell is happening. And so that helped me. And as I did, I started seeing how a person could kind of move the system around in their favor, make things a little better for everyone. And because we were having trouble being locked down, we had a couple riots, some major fights between the gangs, and then we get locked in your unit, and you couldn't go out. So I thought the way to get along here, we're going to fix this. And so I started working with some of the shot callers, and the shot callers are the guys who are in charge of each gang. Serenos have a
Hmm.
shot caller. The Islanders have a shot caller. 505s have a shot caller. I kind of got them all to agree to some ways we could work things out because there's black market in prison. There's all kinds of things going on. So we get everybody kind of join their business and keep them separated. I became kind of I used my interrogation ability as a negotiator, uh, and you still had to be very careful because in those places, when you're behind the fence, is what we call it, unlike prison camps, uh, they'll take people out,
Hmm.
and so you want to make sure you never got arrogant, you didn't cross anybody the wrong way, and you basically kept your mouth shut. In prison, you need to know where to sit, which TV to watch. When you go to the chow hall, stay with your own people. And so I observed all the rules and I followed them. But then I advanced them a little bit to be in my favor by letting people know I could be a go-to guy, and maybe we could kind of get a few things straightened out with the correctional officers and kind of help us all out.
Hmm.
Um, and that's really, I guess, it's kind of hard to put it all in a synopsis, but that's generally how it worked.
Wow. So I call these open mic kind of nights on the podcast. I don't give questions in advance. I just like to see where conversations flow. What was your in that higher security facility you were in? What would be, man, your like most memorable experience, whether it was good, bad, ugly, or funny or not? What what what's your number one memorable experience?
Wow. There is hard to have number one, but I will say this. First of all, when you get into, you realize there's there's basically three classes of people in there. You got the ones
Right.
that are criminals, and they're intelligent people, most of them, some dumb ones, but there's some criminals. Then there's people who are basically crazy. They should be in a mental institution. Then there is people like me, not that I'm not crazy or because I what I did, but we seem to have we're one-time people. We're in there, get us out, we're done. You ain't gonna see us again.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. This is a story about a mouse, and this is how a person is. We had a mouse in our unit who would climb in the lockers and chew the end of food out and stuff, and he was in everybody's locker. And they wouldn't let us have any mouse traps, no metal objects in there. So we were trying to find a way to catch this mouse. But one day I came in there, and these guys told me, "Hey, Morgie caught the mouse." I said, "You did? She's good. Okay, we're done with the mouse." I figured now. So the next morning, I opened my locker up, and this mouse runs out. And I said, "What the hell is that?" He's all pink. And I said, "We got another one." They go, "No, that's him." I said, "That's him. Yeah, it's the same mouse." I said, "What the hell happened to him?" And they said, "Well, we didn't want to kill him, but we had to teach him a lesson. So we took him in the bathroom, we shaved him." So that's some of the people you're dealing with. I'll
Yeah.
give you another. Yeah, that's how it's crazy some of them are. There was a lot of fights. I guess you could look at those. Is I don't really know if there's one thing because you tell people these stories, they look like you're nuts. But some of the people I hung out with, like George Jung. George was a very interesting guy. He'd been through everything. But he's a little old man by the time I met him.
Yeah.
And George had some great stories. But I guess that story kind of highlights the mentality of a lot of people there. Because the things we want in the prisons, there's guys that were running rackets that they were getting using social security numbers to get uh, from the prison to file uh, taxes with feds and get returns and having their girlfriends take and put the money in their commissary account. Now it sounds smart because they figured out how to do this. It sounds dumb because now they're taking $2,000 or $3,000 and have it moved into their commissary account. I mean, think about it. They're
Yeah.
going to look at that like, what
Yeah.
the
Some
hell wrong with you?
bells and whistles are going to be going off somewhere. Uh,
Exactly. And other things like, I guess memorable things to me is just when you learn the rules. Like I saw a guy get stabbed one night because This one of my songs coming out. The guy he sat in his buddy's chair in the TV room, and his buddy told him not to do it before, and he did it as a joke, and the guy shanked him.
Wow.
Rules are rules,
Oh yeah.
and that's how they are there. And
Well,
and
it's
and so
the rules on the street too. I remember I had to respond to a homicide. It was two homeless guys, and the dead guy uh, took one swig too many out of the 40 ounce that they were sharing, and so he killed him over it.
yeah,
Because you don't drink somebody else's swig. Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
so
that's true. And you look at that, that actually transfers over to prison because in prison there's not all of these ways around it. There's no politician to move you around in the prison system. There's
yeah.
no amount of money that's going to help you once you're in there. Though there are people like that basically pay money to other inmates so they're left alone, so they don't get beat up
Mm,
or have their locker ripped out, or I kind of that. I mean, that happens. It's kind of a ransom payment, usually for a class. If you're a chomo, they call them child molesters. They call them chomos. A lot of them are paying a ransom to one of the gangs, that kind of stuff. Um, and if they didn't, they got worked over. And one of the gangs would, um, the gangs all have different creeds. The worst gang there was Dirty White Boys. I mean, they were a mess. Uh, but uh, but yeah, there's people paying like that. So, but the rules, if you follow all of them, you're generally okay. Um, but God save you if you don't.
yeah.
You know.
So life after the prison experience. Well, before we jump there, because you wrote your books while you were incarcerated, right?
Two of them, yeah. Two of them I
Two
did.
up, two of them.
Yeah.
And which two? The
I wrote False Confessions uh, because I met Doug Williams in prison. Doug Williams was a polygraph operator from Oklahoma City PD. He'd actually worked in the White House under Johnson and Nixon in the Situation Room. And later he left there, got into law enforcement, and he became a polygraph operator. Later he became a crusader against the polygraph. And that's how I met him. He'd written a book called How to Sting the Polygraph, which I later re-edited for him. And he was trying to write this book and he couldn't. When he met me, I was in the middle of writing another book called Eclectics, which is a political comedy. And he read part of it and he wanted me to write that book. So those two books I wrote while in prison.
so what was he in prison for? Just out of
Well, he was in
curiosity.
prison. The feds went after him for teaching people to lie and how to pass the polygraph. Yeah, he has a very interesting case. Uh, he uh, he didn't get very much time. I met him in the camp, and he'd only gotten a couple years. It was a very strange case. But Doug, I mean, the polygraph, and don't want to offend all you law enforcement people out there, but it's BS. We used it when I was a cop only to browbeat people with. I've taken two of them, passed them, and lied all the way through it. And that was when I was in law enforcement, just to test it, lied all the way through it, never had a problem. And so Doug got carried away with it. Basically, he was helping people, but they set him up and they put an agent in, and Doug taught the guy how to pass it, how to cheat on the test, and they said, well, by that somehow he was lying to the feds. It's kind of a convoluted case.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was kind of they kind of went. The first prosecutor wouldn't even take the case. He said, "Nah, come on," uh, but they did, and he ended up in prison for it. So
Wow.
he was actually on 60 Minutes. If you ever get a chance to look at, there's an episode of Doug Williams of 60 Minutes back in the 80s, and where they actually showed how the polygraph didn't work and had three polygraph experts on the hidden camera cheat, lie, and get caught. It was a very interesting episode.
Wow.
And
I'll have to
get a chance, like it's an older episode, but
add,
it's Doug Williams. It's on 60 Minutes.
that's awesome. Um, so the children's book after that's after you were incarcerated, what inspired you to write a children's book?
Well, I wrote actually, oddly enough, to go back to, I kind of wrote that one first, and that came because there was a guy I was incarcerated with. His One of his daughters had been told in school there was no Santa Claus, And I'm very immature. I believe in Santa Claus, and I just am. I love those Christmas stories. So I wrote this story called The Children's Language. The children's language is about how Santa Claus, and the reason was there's no Santa Claus. The teacher told her, how is it possible for Santa Claus to talk to every kid in the world? It's not possible. Forget it. So the book's called The Children's Language, and it's illustrated, and it's just about how Santa Claus whispers to every newborn child and teaches them a language with a whisper, and that's how they can all talk with each other. And and,
Oh,
uh, and so anyway, it actually
that's
did
cool.
okay.
That's
But it's
cool.
yeah. Anyway, that's kind of like that's where I I've got another kids book I'm going to work on a little bit later. I have 14 grandkids and four great grandkids, and so
Yeah.
my grandkids are older, but the great grandkids are coming along. So and with my inherent immaturity, it seems to fit.
Well, hey, of course Santa Claus exists because just look on the map. Santa Claus, Indiana, is a real town,
There you
and
go.
so he's got a and there is the North Pole as well. So yeah, that's funny. A good funny story. Musician. Were you a musician pre-incarceration?
Yeah,
And
I was I started playing guitar when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I don't really have any reason if I started doing it then, and I was terrible for a couple of years. But I got into writing songs in junior high school and stuff like that, and actually elementary school, about sixth grade. And most of the songs got me invited to stay after school by the principal because they were very complimentary. Uh, but I had a good time with it, and I did, and so I kept writing. Now, we had a band in prison. All three. I was in three prisons: Texas, Colorado, and Kentucky. And the first was actually a prison. The other two were camps, which that's the club fed they all talk about. It's not quite that good, but we had bands in all three places, and I would write all of our songs, and so I've got songs about the shot collar, and I'll tell you a quick story about that. We did in Latuna. Uh, I wrote a song, and it's called "Jesus is My Shot Collar." Now, I'm not a religious person, and but this picked on everyone from the warden to this one lieutenant we didn't like to the bunch of the inmates, the gangs. It was a long song. So we decided to go ahead and play it. We looked around, there's no COs around. So we play this song. We got a big crowd of inmates and they're laughing and stuff. I look in the back as we finish, and here's this lieutenant. And I go, oh, next day I get called into his office. And he goes, you know that song you played last night? Yeah. It's a pretty funny song. I said, yeah. He goes, don't ever play that again. I said, okay. He goes, have you got the words to that someplace written down? I said, you're not going to throw me in the shoe for this. Now, everybody calls it the hole. It's called the SHU, SHU, Supplemental Housing Unit in prison. I said, you're not going to throw me in the shoe for this, are you? He goes, not if you give me the words. I said, okay. So I gave them to him. About 2 weeks later, uh, my supervisor, correctional officer, I worked in recreation and education. He came to me and says, you know that song you wrote? He says, yeah. Do you know Lieutenant's got a band? I said, why? He said, he played that at our Christmas party. I said, really? He goes, don't tell him I told you. so, so it must have been halfway decent. They liked it. So,
Oh, that's funny. So life after incarceration. What's that like? I mean, how what
it's
are you
a,
doing? I know your partner's in the Prison Break Brewery, but um, how did you reacclimate or reintegrate on on the outside?
well, the first thing was my family uh, did not alienate me, like, unfortunately for a lot of guys.
Hmm.
Um, and so they stood behind me. I mean, we were in contact every week by the prison telephone and everything else. And so I was very fortunate there. And I came back to the area where I was from, and a lot of people they actually tell you probably shouldn't go back. There's another area you can go to. I said, no, I'm not going to hide. It's been I got up a little after 10 years, but um, so I came back and I stayed with my daughter, and who's there. My daughters are all very I have four daughters. very successful people, all of them are. And my son-in-law is the same way. And but I came back here, and it's very weird when you come back. And the first thing you notice when you come back is everybody got older except you. Uh, and here's the thing about that. I did get older, but right after I came back, my best friend from years and years had passed away. And I got permission. I'm still on probation, have an ankle monitor on. And I go to this funeral and I saw a couple of girlfriends, a couple of guys I ran around with and stuff that, my God, these people are old. And and they all said to me, you really haven't aged that much. And I have a theory about that. When you're in prison, as bad as it is, a lot of the stress is gone when you get acclimated to prison. You don't have bills to pay. There's no taxes. You go to work because you have prison jobs, but
Mhm.
it's not the same thing. You're not worried about who's going to do what. And I got to move my cat here. She's nosy. Anyway, uh, and once you get used to understand, then you seem like you're going to this time lock thing where you really don't age. Because I ran every day. I ran a marathon in what year was that? About third year I was inside the prison in a circle. A very boring marathon. Don't recommend it. But I trained for that. We worked out all the time. I played basketball. I'm 67. I still play basketball. I would not be playing basketball today had I not gone to prison. Again, I don't recommend that as part of your training module, um, but when I got out, that's what it was. It was kind of like they had my brother, even who's 5 years younger than me. Phew, I got, man, he said, yeah, now, yeah, I do. Maybe I do look 67, but they don't see my wife. I married a woman. My wife's 42 years old. Um, she's younger than me a lot, but and that's not a trophy statement. We just got along, and
Yeah.
she's a successful person too. But back to your, how do you react when I got out? The things you got to get used to is you're not you deal with probation. My first probation officer was cool. Oh, you know, he told me, listen, man, I ain't got time for you. I got guys who are driving me crazy. You're white collar. You were a cop. You know the rules. Don't make me come get you. You know what to do.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. If he came over, he called me ahead of time and he just, how's it going? Good.
Yeah.
Uh, Getting a job, no, that's a different story. You know, and getting a bank account and getting a driver's license. You got to go through all that over again. I took a driver's test at a place with a bunch for my permit with a bunch of 14-year-olds. Try that out. But they're all looking at me, they just kept looking over me. I said, I flunked a lot in school. I just got, uh, so I did that and had to go back and take my driver's test. And the woman I took my driver's test with, her dad and I worked together in law enforcement. And here she's, when I went out for my drive, she goes, do you know my dad, Harry? I said, yeah. She goes, I thought you're that Jack. She says, don't worry about it. Just pull back in. You're good. So she was very cool about it. But my first job was at Pizza Hut, washing dishes for $8.20 an hour. And I,
Wow.
I tell people about that because the guy who I got the job with was very good about it. A lot of people go, well, we got to do a criminal background and all this stuff here. I said, well, that ain't good, you know. But he said, listen, I don't worry about, I don't care about that. I can't pay much, but I'll sure get you started, and he did. I had to get a loan for a car, of course. Most people might not know this, but when you're gone for over 10 years, your credit rating is not bad. It's zero. And yeah, it's zero. You have no credit when you get it. And which actually for me was good because I committed a financial crime. When I went to prison, it wasn't good. If you think you got a 600 credit rating and you're worried, I could show you mine. You'd be a prince because they crash it out anyway, and they take everything you got, which they should have. I was guilty, but I had no credit rating, and no one would talk to me at the banks. But so I found a credit union, and I walked in and just talked to them, and the guy says, you know what? The fact you walked in here, we'll do this. So I got me a car. And it's a little credit union. And now where I live at, it's about 60 miles from here. But no matter where I live at, I will never leave that credit union.
Wow.
Because they've always been very, I got a personal loan since then and paid that back. And I have my only credit card. I'm not believing in credit cards. I have one that's through them. They were very good with me. And I'll always be loyal to them for that. But I was fortunate in all those things because I had family support. A lot of guys don't, and they get out. I have some guys I know that are walking around, and it's not good, you know. Uh, the support mechanism does not exist in that, like people think it does. You don't. The classes in prison, other than ones the inmates teach, are not very good. Most of them aren't even real. Um, Unfortunately, some of the classes in prison are the drug dealers teaching the drug dealers how to do a better job. The bank robbers holding classes on how to do it better and not get caught. And but we taught our classes to each other. I was in charge of the GED program. We got guys through that and stuff, So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
once you get out, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Once you get out, what?
Once you get out, a lot of that stuff doesn't come into play. Nobody cares about your GED.
Yeah,
And I think it has a lot to do with where you are too. My friend I'm in business with, he's in California, and they're much more forgiving out there than they are in the Midwest. You know,
yeah,
and the Midwest is where I don't know what's conservative or I don't know what you want to call it, but it's different. California, he got out and didn't have any problem at all. So
yeah. And a couple of things like you were talking about the bank robbers. We actually solved the bank robbery because he left the 5 pound sledgehammer behind, and it still had the barcode on it, and it was a
mhm.
cobalt you manufacturer with only Lowe's sells cobalt. So I took it up to the closest Lowe's, which is about 5 miles down the road. Said, "Can you scan this? Tell me if it's one of yours." And she goes, "Yeah." And she goes, "Yeah, I can even tell you. We've only sold two in the last 2 months, and and both of them used their credit cards to buy it." And I said, and the one she said in the last 2 months, but the one was 3 week sold 3 weeks earlier, and so I go, well, what I'm looking for is a black male, and do you happen to have video of him buying of the person that bought this hammer? And it was a holiday weekend. The robbery, bank robbery, was actually on New Year's Eve. So she goes, the security manager won't be in until the following Monday. So I went back on that Monday, and he pulls up the video cam of the purchase, and the guy's wearing the same clothes buying the hammer as he was wearing when he did the robbery. But when we finally caught him, he had a book from prison that was his workbook of how to better do bank robberies. And one of them was don't go in and out to the front door, bust out a window with the hammer, and come in and out that window because you won't set off the die pack. And that's exactly what this guy did. But he
Yeah,
forgot. Apparently, they didn't tell him take the hammer with you.
yeah, that was
And
left
that,
out of the book. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what jammed him up. And then out in California, there's a Catholic priest out there that has homeboys industries, and it's all geared towards rehabilitation, and it's all run by they make a product, and they eventually opened homegirls industries as well. And you're right about the reintegration into society across the country is terribly different. And
It is tough. Your
yeah,
bank robbers, I got to go back to bank robbers for a minute because of all the people I met in prison, the bank robbers were the dumbest guys I ever met. And
yeah,
they had some of the dumbest stories. And you look at them and you go, and because I was a jailhouse lawyer, and these guys, what we were most successful at was getting some time shaved off, especially the drug guys' sentences, because drug guys are way over sentenced in prison. And a law was passed where they took 2 points off, and so we'd get a lot of these guys off. We won a couple major cases, but the bank robbers would bring their cases to you. Can you look at this? And you read it, and you go, is this a Seinfeld episode?
yeah,
Are you this? I'm going to give you an example. This one guy, nicest guy ever. He brought his case, and I said, "Is this true? What the cops said?" Yeah, that's what happened. He went to a small bank in a small town. I think it was in Oregon, if I remember right. But anyway, it's like an old house that was made into a bank, and there's two little factories there. And so he watches it for a month when they bring the money in the truck, leaves and stuff, and payday they bring all his cash in and all this stuff. And so he gets this Halloween mask, and he figures out, he takes a squirt gun, paints it black. He didn't want to use a real gun, all this thing, and he's works on it in his mirror and stuff. So he goes to this bank. And he wants to get the mask fitted on and see how he looks with it. So he looks around. He's sitting out back, in the back of the bank is like a storage area. It looks, he thinks it is. It sticks out as part of the building. It's sticking out. It has an old round window in it. He can see his reflection. So he goes up to this round window. He puts the mask on and stuff. He goes like that, points the gun, gets the bag, takes the mask off, puts it back on, goes back to his car. He's ready to go. He gets up, walks around the front of the building with the mask under his jacket, goes inside, pulls the mask on, and here's cops standing there waiting for him. The window he was at was the bank officer's window. He's watching him out the window do all this. He
Well,
goes,
what?
I felt kind of foolish.
Yeah. Well, I think bank robberies, at least back, we had 70 bank robberies in 1 year in the city of Dayton. And I think we cleared 90% of them. It was like bank robberies has the highest clearance rate of almost any
Oh
crime.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's
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 crazy.
crazy.
It's nuts. They had. I got to tell you the quick one on this one here. We had another guy in there who lived with his mother, and he was going to rob this bank. He said, "I just wanted to move out." It was kind of an impromptu robbery. So he took a note. He wrote on the note, give me all the money in the drawer here. And he says, "I had it down there." And he goes to get, but his mom stops him. He says, "Here, why don't you go to the store for me?" He said, "No, I can't." She said, "Take my list, go to the store." She said, "Okay, just to shut up." So he goes out, takes her list, puts it in his pocket, goes to the bank, waits his place in line. He had a pillowcase put over his head with the eyes cut out. Pulls over. He can see fine. Hands the woman the list. Puts his hand in his coat like he's got a gun. The woman looks at the list and starts laughing. She says, "I can't help you with this." He goes, "Just do what it says." She goes, "But I can't." She goes, "Why?" He looks at it. It says 2 packs of Camel cigarettes, a 6 pack of Budweiser, a quart of milk. He gave his mom's grocery list. I said, and the cops came in. He goes, I said, "What'd they say?" He said, "Didn't make any difference about that. He didn't care."
Yeah,
He said,
yeah. Oh,
I didn't
those.
mean to get sidetracked, but that's just
Oh
how
no,
weird they are.
those are the fun stories. That you got to have a sense of humor, especially coming out of law enforcement and what you went through and stuff. If you are so serious all the time, you probably lose your mind. Talk about Prison Break Brewery. Uh, what's the story behind that?
Well, my partner, Greg Thompson, who lives in California, I met him in prison, and Greg was he was a major league drug dealer. He was a lot of pot stuff. He worked a lot of rock bands in California and stuff, and he they flew planes in from Mexico with all this stuff. And he was on his third time down when I met him. And in order to get to the camp, you have to either you get sentenced to camp because you have a sentence under 10 years and it's nonviolent, or in my case, in Greg's case, you work your way down by programming and doing all these things that we both
Mhm.
got there. And so we started putting some things together. I was writing the books and we started talking about it, having a business. And he was the one guy I met in prison that um, we were both in the sports real heavy. We were opposite because where we were from, I'm more of a Republican. He's more of a Democrat. And, I was in law enforcement. He was always a drug dealer. But we clicked and it hit. And so we decided this beer idea we had. And so that's what we went with. And we I don't know. It kind of formed a life. In prison, you look for something besides, you can't work out 24 hours a day and you don't want to sit in your room and just reading all the time. So you look for something, I guess, I hate to use the overused term passion, but it gives you some passion to live because you're away. The worst part of prison is you're away from everything you're familiar with, your
Mhm.
family, your hobbies, the river you fish in, and all those things. So the idea of the beer and the writing and the working out became my life. And Greg got out before I did. And he started up going through the paperwork because it to get an alcohol license with a felony on your record, it's a whole different breed of cat. Uh, and so we did. We managed to get it, and it definitely wasn't easy. It was a major hurdle, but we did that. We got our own. We got a chemist. We actually one thing that happened that was very fortunate for us is when COVID hit. a lot of the places shut down, and some of the craft breweries that had signed on to buy these the chemists to make the beer,
Hmm.
brand for them. We found a chemist he was an award-winning chemist, and he had one that he thought sold. It wasn't, so we got it for a song. And it's turned out very good for us. But that's where that came from, and so we're partnered with the place called Brew Crew out in Riverside, California, and but we take our beer. Now we don't brew our own beer yet. We are in the process of building the brewery up. We have a contract brewer who's a master brewer. He's very good. Economically, for us, it's the best thing. Plus, we're both in our late 60s. Do we want to do our own brewery? If we do, we're going to hire somebody. That's not. But anyway, that's worked well, and it's we're in a block. I'll say that much. Which for a while I thought I was going to get deep red, but we're okay.
Well, success stories are good to hear, and I'm glad to hear yours. Um, I know you talk about the darker side of law enforcement. What was that experience like?
Well, yeah, there's and law enforcement has it can be rewarding, but a lot of times it's not. You have massive boredom, and it goes into all hell. But I lost a friend in law enforcement. We had a couple of Waterloo police officers were shot. My friend was in an accident responding to a call relative to that the next day, and that was when that happens, it kind of opens your eyes. But when I got of all the things I did when I started working the child abuse cases, that was one of the darkest times for me. We all drank. Well, we were all beer drinking cops, and not that all cops do, but we were a group. But then drinking took a life of its own during that time, and because you're, I think, and I'm sure you can relate to this. I'm sure any cops here can relate to the watch. Is you almost at first you're surprised about what humans can do to other humans,
Hmm.
and then you get numb to it, and then you almost get immune to it. That's the dark part. When you get
Yeah,
to a point where you're immune to it, you need to step back. Don't even look in the mirror. Just take a walk away from everything. And that's where I got to. It got to where it was just like, it was nothing. Don't get me wrong. You need to have some type of an immunity. I hate the term immunity, but resilience after the fact to get you through it in law enforcement. But
yeah,
I reached a point where I just didn't give a damn about it anymore, and that was pretty dark. I thought.
yeah. No, and I think a lot of cops, and it's not just the big city, urban cops that where I that's what I did. I think in my 26-year career, probably close to 300 homicide scenes, shagging calls on midnights, half of 13 of the 26 years. And I think we all develop that self preservation mechanism, but then it becomes a self medicating mechanism
Mhm.
to just try to avoid it. And statistically now, more active duty cops commit suicide than are killed in the line of duty,
Mhm.
and that is a dark side to the job because we get so isolated because of our experiences that you feel the only way out is you're going to self medicate, whether it's alcohol or drugs or whatever you choose to try and avoid or forget. And then some people take that ultimate resolution of taking their own life, and that is terrible. So, what looking forward? What are you looking to do? Besides, I know the brewery, but you got a lot to offer. What's the future look like for you?
Well, really, we're doing an album. I got some songs recorded already. It's country crossover into the rock thing. I've been playing for you. I played in a few bands when I was younger. It's kind of coming back. Now we've been doing it for a few years. We decided to do this. All songs I wrote. Uh, we're not trying to be chart toppers or rock stars. It's just something I want to do, and the other people I met want to do it as well. Um, which is hard to find people like that. Once you get a little bit older, they don't want to do it. But these guys are you're younger, but that's the one thing. I'm going to continue to write. I enjoy it very much. I'm actually writing. It's a cop story. It's based on true stories, some multiple small true stories woven
Hmm.
into it. Um, and I've got a publisher who's pounding me, and this is an actual publisher to write the prison book. And I sent them some stuff. That's why I started writing prison. I sent some publishers. I've got this publisher, and um, and I just decided recently to do it. I didn't want to do it for a long time because you just don't want to do it. Yeah, you don't want to go. It can be funny, but most of it is just not funny.
All right.
And they want you to go through the whole thing from you got trouble and the prosecution, and you're standing on a conveyor belt, buck naked with 20 people you don't know while you go down this thing while they check you out, and all the humiliation. They literally you're dehumanized as much as you can possibly be. They wanted all that. And I go, you know what? I wasn't ready for any of that. So after talking to my family and kids and grandkids, my grandkids are older. I've got one's a basketball coach in Kentucky, and my youngest one is 4 grandkids. So I have all ages in there. I talked to them about it, and they said, "No, I think you should do it." They said, "Probably be good for you," that kind of stuff. And I said, "Okay." So I'll be doing that, and the beer, and really kind of see if it comes up. The one thing I will tell everyone: prison gives you one thing is an appreciation for things, and you learn to appreciate everything. You learn a whole new appreciation for diet pop, even, or just taking a walk. I feed the birds. I work part time at a hospital, and people complain about things. I said, man, they go, how do you stay in a good mood? I stayed in a good mood in prison. Not right away. It took a while. And people said, how do you stay in a good mood here? You have to. And then when you get out and the little things you appreciate, like what we're doing right here. I appreciate
Yeah.
this very much because this is it's part of your freedom. I told people sitting at a stoplight doesn't bother me like it did before I went in because I'm at a stoplight. I'm not in the joint,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's a that's a permanent stoplight. And so I guess whatever comes along that I appreciate spending time with I've got grandkids who are very good in sports. Some of them are in plays. They're doing all types of things. So enjoy those things. And probably don't turn anything down that looks like it's going to be fun that's completely legal, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
ethically moral. you know,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. So that's kind of you kind of leave an open door on things.
And that's great advice because you don't have to go to prison to be in a prison. I mean,
Oh
how
no,
many
it's very
people do
true.
we know that they've created their own prison in the outside world, and they're walking around angry and jealous, and their ego is off the hook, and greed, and they've imprisoned themselves and aren't enjoying life. So I
Yeah.
think your perspective is something that we all need to learn without having to go through the literal prison system to come to that appreciation.
It's very true. I think the first thing you wake up in the morning to interject that and I practice this. And when you first wake up in the morning, don't pick up your phone.
Yeah,
Just give it a little bit, relax, breathe. I meditate. I'm a huge meditator. I did learn that in prison too, and I'm big into meditating. But in the morning, I just think about the things that have been positive for me, things are good. I'm feeling good. My health is, knock on wood, still. I just have my physical. I'm in great shape. Maybe the brain's a little dented, but everything else is pretty good. But and then start your day with thinking, wow, this is a good start. Let's get this going. Because I see people grab their phone and right away they get all pissed and they're mad about the Democrats. They're mad about Trump. They're mad about the taxes. They're mad about this. They're mad about that.
yeah,
You know what? Control yourself. You got yourself. This is the only thing you can control is right inside your skull.
yep,
Try to, you know.
yep. No, that's awesome. And the first thought that came to mind when you said that is, it's not just a jingle to you to have an attitude of gratitude. You
No.
hear that so often, and people, it sounds like Muhammad Ali doing, float like a butterfly. It sounds like a jingle or a commercial, but the reality is it works. That they're
Yeah.
having that attitude, and and I don't grab my phone the first thing in the morning, but the first when I do grab my phone, the very first thing open is it's called Ladate is the name of the app, and I read a story about a saint and what they went through their lives, and it gives me encouragement, particularly when you read some of these who were, you know, I mean, so dirt poor, I mean, just horrible lives, but they could live a saintly life despite their circumstances. That gives me encouragement. So,
It does. People can find anyone, maybe a relative or a friend that's been dealing with such great difficulties and still, it seems to me like some of these people who are dealing with the greatest difficulties have the greatest outlook. And
yeah,
and
no,
it's amazing, you know.
it is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. So folks can get a hold of you from a website or a website standpoint, that prisonbreakbrewery.com.
Yeah.
You can get your books are on there.
Books are on
And
there. Yeah. And then they can go there. We've also got Fed Joints to Beer Joints.com. It's fedjoints to beerjoints.com. That's actually the store my partners that the books are on there as well. And the YouTube is Fed Joints to Beer Joints is a YouTube channel. You can see us and my partner. I get on there and we yak on politics and different things. It's kind of a but we've got a lot of
yeah,
prison stuff on there too. It's just to have a good time, but most of it is, you know.
awesome, awesome. Any parting, you know, advice? You know, if there was one thing you wanted everybody to walk away hearing, what is that?
Well, I guess really it goes back to the appreciation thing. It says, uh, when I got out of prison, I'll tell you this real quick. No one knows what to say to you, but
Hmm.
children never lie. They always know exactly what to say to you. When I get out, my youngest granddaughter, we're sitting on a couch. I hadn't seen her since she was born, and now she's almost 11. And she looks at me and says, "Well, Grandpa, I bet you're glad that's over with." And she was the only one. And I started laughing, and it kind of loosened everybody up because no one knew what to say.
Yeah,
And she was right. And I appreciated that comment. It kind of launched me because at first I'm kind of a little uneasy, but I got thinking, I appreciate that and everything around you. And when I guess my thing is, if you think things are bad, there's almost always something you can do about it to make it better. I believe that. I might get proven wrong at some point, but I believe that. And maybe you're a person of faith and that's where you have to go. I'm not, but I do know there's places I go that I can feel like I can make it better. So setting down and lying down there and thinking about it and not moving, it's not good.
yeah.
Do something about it. You can always make it better. Maybe not just for you, make it better for somebody else. That'll make it better for you.
Awesome advice. Awesome, Jack. It is so fun to have you on here, and uh, your album that's on YouTube. Uh, that
We're releasing song. What we're going to do, we're releasing a few of the songs that should be out here in January. We've released a couple songs will be coming out next week, as a matter of fact, on YouTube. And then people can get a little free sample of that and see what they think of it.
awesome, awesome. Uh, well, we'll wrap this up. I want to thank you for being here. Our audience, if you share this with somebody that needs to hear this message today. Thank you for joining us and supporting us. We're because of you all, we're now on 6 continents, 14, 15 countries, and it's all because of you. So a hearty thank you to all of you. And as I close every episode, it's with this closing thought: always, always, always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, because that's how warriors, servants, and leaders live their lives. Thank you all, and see you next week, and stay safe.